Good morning today, 6th January 2025. We are going to discuss editorials from The Hindu. You are welcome to Democracy with Dungawat channel. First article here. What should be outlook of India in the present year 2025? As you are aware, the world has gone several changes politically, economically, socially and environmentally. If you see politically, United States of America, there is a shift in leadership. Many European countries, they are also going to elections and then there will be change in leadership. So these things will definitely impact India and how India itself should position in international arena in order to grow as third largest economic power and also in order to attract more investment and growth in the economic arena. So in this slide, article has been written by M.K. Narayanan. He was former Director Intelligence Bureau member, even former National Security Advisor to Prime Minister, and he was former Governor of West Bengal. So this article we will discuss in detail. India, there is important movement in its history. India is one of the leading nations in the world when it comes to economic growth and political stability. India today, if you see, it project as an atmosphere having peace. This is one of the important place in the world because there is a lot of shift is going in economic and geopolitical landscape. If you go to Israel, there is a conflict between Israel and Palestine. If you go to Russia, there is a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Many countries are going, even North Korea and South Korea, though they are not in conflict all the time. However, there is a conflict looming all the time. Despite of all these changes, India offers a peaceful solutions. So India is today one of the rising economic and political groupings. If you see 2024, this was a period of political uncertainty across the globe. Much of the world was mute witness to multiple and current conflicts. Those things will threaten our peace and stability today. This is especially true in case of Europe and West Asia. One major tragedy that is still unfolding in is Gaza. There are several issues are happening, that is Israel and Palestine issue. Ukraine conflict, this even remains much issue today. India managed to go forward successfully within this geopolitical landscape. What will happen in this year? What kind of trouble it will bring? For starters, this may not be good startup. This 2025, this may be seem to bring host of fresh troubles and also along with India position how it will handle policy making. So it must be wise for Indian leaders in order to understand and listen the message contained in ancient Chinese saying. What is that? The wind sweeping through the lower heralds a rising storm in the mountain. Basically, whatever the wind is coming, we need to understand it very clearly. Otherwise, we cannot manage the wind. So, author says, India's largest neighbor, China, we need to manage them in good manner. Much is being done in recent border negotiations, even disengagement in the line of actual control in Ladakh. This was even followed by first formal meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and China's President Xi Jinping in 5 years. Even resumption of the special representative talks on border issues also. If you carefully see, those who are wiser, they know clearly that disengagement does not mean dispute resolution. Border conflict, they still remains alive and unchanged. There needs to be done far more than what is deterrence. Hence, India cannot afford take its eye off the ball. We need to be vigilant. We need to bring some permanent solutions. Meanwhile, if you see China, they has taken series of steps in order to strengthen their security cooperation with nations in the global south. Basically, in order to outflank India, China recently facilitated reconciliation talks that were held in Beijing among various Palestinian factions. In September last year, China and African nations they jointly agreed to progress China-sponsored global security initiative that is like deeper security cooperation in areas like counterterrorism, disaster management, even public health also. China also managed to march over India during Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit that was held in Pakistan last October. Even China took full advantage of the absence of Indian Prime Minister at the SCO summit in order to mute India's voice at the forum. So this is kind of perceived as anti-West. Even Mr. Xi Jinping, he took full advantage of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Peru in November in order to strengthen ties with traditional enemy Japan. Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba, he also agreed with Xi Jinping in order to promote mutually beneficial relationship based on common strategic interest. So what kind of issues are happening in South and West Asia? If you see, it is India's traditional area of influence, basically South Asia, but the biggest concern is that is going to happen. It is already taking place or taken place. Questions also have raised after ouster of the Sheikh Hasina regime in Bangladesh because India with its neighborhood policy couldn't contain the situation looming in Bangladesh. Today, India appears almost isolated in the region, even with eclipse of Sheikh Hasina, emergence of caretaker regime, basically that is totally hostile to India. So now it appears friendless. Bangladesh, if we see, there is a lot of atrocities going against Hindu community, and Bangladesh doesn't seem to concerned about minorities in its own state. So there is issues are happening. Both Nepal and Sri Lanka they appear to look like fair weather friends, but Maldives, if you see, there is always debate about it. Pakistan always enemy to India. Afghanistan doesn't seem to figure out prominently in India's calculation. Bhutan, with present king, they does not display the same warmth towards India. Then they kind of balancing more towards China it seems across South Asia regions. Therefore, we can say when you roll the dice, that turn out to be it is matter of kind of speculation, right? So once you roll the die, you can easily guess once upon a time, but you cannot guess. As far as I am concerned, this article since he was serving in Congress regime, so basically he's attacking government. So these points are very critical. So you can use them in answer writing. I'm not against any political party, but these points can give a better view about critical analysis. Further going into article, there is a problematic that could be impact current concerns in West Asia, more specifically, basically the development in Syria. Assad, he was president of Syria. He was outtaken in the Syria because of the lot of rebel groups that followed, and they ousted him, and he went to Russia. He fled basically like Sheikh Hasina. So it will have huge relevance for countries in wider regions including India also. How India deals with situation resulting from collapse of the Assad regime and like takeover of reign by Sunni group. This is like it is unclear. We need to understand these things in clear. Those leaders, these things also very very important. ISIS, Al Qaeda, these things are happening very regularly. So we need to focus more on terrorism also. So ultimately he says in conclusion, it is mentioned that see development in the geopolitical arena, even it is digital threat that to achieve quantum leap during 2025 we have not progressed further. The situation even warrants careful assessment and sending out dire warning about dangers present in digital arena also. We need to understand these things. We need to resolve in the 2025 in order to go further. So good article, however, heavily criticized government of India, presently BJP government. but you can take good points from here. So he has gone much into depth of international relations, so you can understand this thing. Next article about symbolism, how misplaced symbolism can displace showmanship. So this article, it is written by Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur. He is a retired person, basically additional Director General, Air Power Studies. If you see, many of the time symbol have intangible value. What do you mean by intangible value? Tangible means you can feel it. Intangible means those values you cannot feel it. Or services, goods, whatever it may be, you cannot feel them. Those are called intangible services. Leaders, they often use symbolism in order to convey their message. Suppose say Congress, it is hand symbol. BJP, it is lotus symbol. Right? Many political parties have their own symbol. If you go to even many of the brands across world also, they have their own symbol. Audi means 3 rings, right? Bench car, star shaped. So these are all symbols, they convey their own message. It is for this reason, recently there was a removal of painting from military history from Indian Army Chief Office Complex, basically in Delhi. So this generated kind of complex emotions. The painting that has been relocated to conference center named basically Airfield Marshal Sam Manekshaw, right? Basically, the painting, this was surrender of the Pakistani army to India in 1974. This was kept in New Delhi in Sam Manekshaw building. But incident highlights importance of valuing symbol for their quality and effect. So it is very, very important because considering there is a driver of military to conduct in-learnings that are connected to distant past. So these things will remind us how we are connected with our history. It is in this drive, it must be remembered and understood. History is a truth. If you taken as a whole, even segmented adoption will lead to like kind of skewed learning. You have to take history as a whole. So that paint represents that Pakistan army surrendered to Indian army. This has immense significance. Basically, there are several things have been raised during paintings. It basically stands out identity, leadership, direction, faith and competency. So these are all the few examples we can understand. If we can see other examples, when Israel they established, there was swearing in of the military recruits that took place after. There is a desert march to Fort Masada. They took vow to protect their country. It symbolized never given attitude that born in the spirit of group of 962 Jews in 73 Common Era. So they fought end against the Romans. Even Masada, this has become symbol of their identity in Israel soldier. They came together, they identified that symbol. Even till date, they identify that symbol. In April 17, 2012, Washington Post also wrote, what they wrote, aerial art show, they pulled thousands of Washingtonians out of their offices, vehicles and homes on Tuesday morning, like on April 17, 2012, because NASA Space Shuttle Discovery, they blow town atop the modified 747. Like this was kind of symbol they depicted. So there were costumes, there were cheers, and of course there were tears also. That fly past was symbolic nation pride in the leadership position of America's space program. Sometimes leaders they remind themselves of the important position. US President Harry S. Truman, he had a table placard that kind of read, the buck stops here. Even Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he had famous lines stopping by the words of snowy evening. Basically, it was by Robert Frost on his table. So basically like woods are lovely dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go before I sleep. This quote is very, very important. Like you might have heard several number of times. So these all things depict and they all reminders of the two heads of the state. But if you see symbolically, they had another purpose. Knowledge of the positioning of these placards on their leaders' desk. This is kind of small and subtle direction to their countrymen of their duty too. When you have the accountability, those symbols, those captions, they will remind you again and again. Duty is visible, it is always in unique way, like base camp, Siachen, glacier. There is even shrine of OP Baba, who OP Baba was not known, but the tale of him beating back enemy single-handed at Malam Post, this kind of legendary. So this battalion moving up the glacier reports Baba, they seek, they seek their blessing, safe time on the treacherous glacier. So you can understand like each and every symbol has its own importance. So if you de-induction, the battalion reports him again, thanks him, OP Baba, because this is symbol of faith in Almighty. Soldiers, they all come from different religion, different region. They show kind of their conviction and then they seek the blessings. If you see importance of 1971 war, independent India's history in December 16, 1971, this is Red Letter Day when India won resounding victory against Pakistan. Measured against any parameter, the painting of surrender ceremony, this is kind of iconic and it has come to represent pinnacle of India's military and political competency. If for sure, like all services were deeply involved, but it was Army Jawan who led the foray. This resulted in surrender of 93,000 Pakistani soldiers. This kind of iconic scene, this is seared in memoirs of all Indians. Right? It is where army chief meets heads of foreign armed forces and dignitaries, and they message each of them they would have carried out India's pride and India's army's finest hour. So the replacement of painting, this is kind of touting the history and future vision of Indian army. Which one is more suited to Indian army's chief office? Basically, one cannot dictate how someone furnishes their office, but would the painting have a view? We need to understand this thing because it is generated with history. We can truly correlate with our history. So the painting has significance. Even controversy over removal of the painting, this seemed to be kind of low, but there is another row that raised recent installation of Shivaji statue on the shores of frigid Pangang Tso in Ladakh. You might have seen there is installation of Shivaji statue. There have been disapproving views, including those by local councillor, basically. But having operated extensively in the area, one cannot rule the fact that if any symbol was required to link courage with local history, it should have been Joravar Singh, the legendary Dogra general, who's like he took deep into Tibet. The symbolism is all about linking the viewer to feel that he can connect with the surroundings. Else, it is kind of misplaced showmanship. Basically, one side he is attacking the government, and another side he is emphasizing the importance of symbolism. So this article you can write somewhere in history or somewhere in essay writing. You can connect symbolism and all. Third article, we will discuss about how to imagine and build trust-based society. There is a trade war that is looming over horizon. There is always a need for inward looking into economies and conservative governments across the world. It is good time to re-examine some fundamental assumptions we have taken about the economy. Traditionally, it is believed that greater capital inflows, there will be production incentives to industry, cleaning up of non-performing assets in the banking system. This is a good recipe to sustain high levels of growth. It is so much easier to focus on tangible factors like land, labor, capital and law. After all, governments can make policies about what is tangible. But we suggest there is an intangible factors in this equation that may be beneficial for kind of catalyst to growth. One of the intangible factor that seriously lacking in Indian society is the absence of trust. There is a lack of trust between businesses and government, between businesses and consumers. Most of the time, we tend to caught up in the daily lives and we forget huge stresses that lack trust creates for us. Businesses, especially the small ones, they spend so much time and energy on working to see their payments come on time. Even they are dealing with corrupt taxmen in worrying whether land titles are safe or not. Cases of like bounced checks, they kind of clog up the justice system. Majority of entrepreneurs in India, they do not come from business families. There is no risk of cushion to fall back upon. If something goes wrong, they will completely downed. If only the stresses created by uncertainty over timely payments, land titles, corrupt officials, if they are minimal, many more young people, they could either move back into business or they can scale up their enterprise. Lack of trust in they increases cost of doing business, even its stresses involved exponentially. Trust is what that distinguishes modern societies from pre-modern society. Hundreds of years ago, there was a circle of trust that was limited to only family and friends. The growth of modern society, that is kind of hinged on expanding circle of trust beyond those whom know personality. If you see scientists, they discovered human beings, they are hardwired to live with small communities, almost 150 to 200 people. The only moves to move beyond the small size is kind of scaling up the society, living together, work effectively. This is kind of able to find mechanisms. Those things will allow trust each other. Today, people expect something like when they go out for work or they go to market, they can do so safely. When we buy food, we trust that quality of food is good. We even trust that milk is safe to drink. We even trust that vegetables are safe to drink. Even vegetables are safe to consume also. We trust that our money is safe in the banks. Even trust underlies nearly all social transaction in modern society. Today, if you see, people undertake big financial transaction on e-commerce website with vendors whom they do not even know. They do because websites have been able to build trust in the way that allows people to use payment gateways, even competent complete transaction mechanism also. Even small school level project, they depends on trust. Different people have to work together in order to make design, to find parts for project, even to learn how to integrate different parts together. Trust is very, very important. On the other hand, think about the cost imposed by lack of trust. Think about matter of securing your own house. When we go out, we shut the doors and windows. Some people install special locks and bars. Some install kind of CCTV cameras. All these are costs a lot of money in order to install and maintain. Think about alternate situation, even about locality that is so safe that no such kind of need arises. So when such a kind of society is there, there is no need for cost also. These things will automatically remove a lot of pressure from everyone's mind. It even allows citizens to move around rather than stay home, guard their house. It saves citizens money, provides them with peace of mind. It allows them to explore more meaningful activities or even leisure activities also. Now even imagine a situation in which it is not just locality but whole city that is safe. Think of amount of times that money is saved. Even scale this up like to whole society. Now you can imagine tremendous possibilities that we can unlock. As a thought experiment, there is a enterprise like building green cities that could be achieved by investing huge capital, but this should be achieved by building trust. Building greenfield urban spaces in India, they needs urgently. It is about trust between government, landholders, developers, even private investors also. Investable resources in the shape of land, money, these things will exist. Finding those resources depending upon building trust between those who own the land, those who will give the money, that is very, very important. So ultimately what author says is societies that have high levels of trust, they have lower cost of doing businesses. If we can create a institutional system that can inspire trust between people, we can be so much more effective, prosperous, efficient. So he says, let us think about how to build society where we can trust each other. So that is the future to look forward to. So this article has been written by Mita Raju Lochan. He is the Secretary of Youth Affairs. So that's it. We discussed three articles today. First article is about M.K. Narayan, outlook of India's in the year ahead in the geopolitical arena. Second article we discussed about symbolism, how it must not misplace showmanship. Third article we discussed about trust and how to build trust in the society. So thank you very much for discussion.